Welcome everybody, this is the first time I've done this, so cut me some slack. In MMA this week, the state of the heavyweight division, the Anthony Smith controversy, and is the fight capital of the world reopening. By now, I'm sure you've all realized John Jones versus Francis Ngannou are probably not going to fight anytime soon. With Dana White saying last week, anything is possible. I mean, I don't know if these guys really want that fight. You see a lot of talk online, but actually making fights is a whole nother ballgame. Especially since they're both expecting a lot of money from the belt, they may have to wait until the UFC can open up to an audience again at least. Since writing this, Jones has gone to Twitter and let everybody know that they started negotiations and they didn't want to front up with more money. Jones saying, the UFC said I could possibly earn more from pay-per-view buys. Though when asked on Twitter, isn't legacy more important than money, he replied, honestly no, at this stage of my career I could retire today. I've already done my job. I've given this company over a decade of entertainment. And he has a point. Jones could stop today and still go down as one of the greatest of all time. So it looks like we are just going to have to wait to see if Jones ever does move up to heavyweight, or we ever get to see some amazing super fight between Jones and Ngannou. But the only reason we're even talking about this being a possibility is because the giant firefighter-shaped roadblock at the top of the division. Stipe says he cannot train. His gym is shut down. And of course, he's a first responder in the middle of a pandemic. But he says he won't be ready to go until the gym reopens and he can get a full camp. I'm personally just wondering about his eye. Perhaps he's not willing to jump back into training like everyone says he should be able to, because he's still having issues that he doesn't want to disclose, but of course that's just a theory. Ben Rothwell, when asked his opinion after his win over OSP, said, "It is what it is. I respect the guy though, he's a hero, he's awesome. But for all those fighting, especially us older guys, man, we've got to get this division moving." Later saying, make an interim belt, just do it. We do it all the time for every other division, make an interim belt. Let Francis and whoever fight, and then Stipe comes back, fight. Let's do it, let's get this division moving. But wouldn't that be a great idea? Keep the division going, schedule an interim fight between DC and Ngannou, two men at the top of the contender list who have both lost to Stipe. DC hasn't fought since August, and Francis has only spent 2 minutes and 42 seconds in his last 4 fights. Getting back into the cage could be important, especially based on UFC 250. At this stage, it's only 3 weeks away, and we don't even have a full card yet. DC seems to just be banking on the trilogy to sell the fight, then he can retire. And perhaps walking into the octagon with one of the scariest guys on the roster isn't something he's excited about when he's already beaten the champion. When asked about the possible matchup with Ngannou, Cormier had this to say. If Stipe won't fight, then Francis Ngannou has earned a title fight. If somebody is fighting Francis Ngannou for the title, it's going to be me. All the respect in the world to Francis Ngannou, but I'm not afraid of anyone. I would love to do my trilogy with Stipe Miocic, but if Stipe won't fight, they're going to have to take his belt, just like Henry Cejudo gave up his, and they're going to make that fight between Francis and I for the belt. It's as simple as that. I'm not sure when it was decided that DC would call the shots, but he is obviously upset and wants to move forward in his career, and in fairness, an interim title fight between DC and Ngannou is something I'm definitely going to pay to watch. On to the midweek main event, Anthony Smith took on Glover Teixeira. Basically, during the fight, Smith had his orbital bone broken, causing him to shut down and eat one hell of a beating from Teixeira. 2 10-8 rounds in a row, 2 broken teeth, Glover even apologizing to Anthony halfway through the 4th round. He was essentially able to defend himself and nothing more. But the story here starts after the fight. Twitter blew up due to the comments that Smith made between rounds.
Hey, deep breath.
My teeth are falling out.
Yeah, breathe. Hey, listen, breathe. Deep breath, Anthony.
A comment seemingly ignored by his team sent people in a fury. Videos were made, articles were written, even Dana himself saying after the event, "I thought the corner wouldn't let him out of the 5th round." People seemed to take that statement as a cry for help and were horrified that his team did nothing to stop the fight. In fact, it got so bad, the referee, Jason Herzog, even tweeted 2 days later to apologize, saying, "Let me be clear, there is only one person to blame, me. I am responsible for each fighter I am entrusted to oversee." Smith seemed to be the only one on the other side of this issue and is annoyed by Herzog's comments, calling them a coward move on his part. Personally, in my opinion, you really need to watch the interview between Smith and Helwani before making your mind up. Smith makes some really good points, and you can feel how disappointed he is in a lot of the former fighters who have been in the exact same position but were now saying Anthony needed to be protected. The link to the interview will be in the description below. We asked you on our Facebook page, which you can also find a link for in the description, if you would have thrown the towel in, and 63% of the 1,400 people that answered agreed they would have. Sort of surprising after all the noise that was made after the fight that still 37% of people said they would let Smith continue, but perhaps it's Smith's campaigning about the decision that made them change their tune. And finally, our last story of the week, the UFC is returning to Las Vegas. Right? Because Dana White sure thinks they're going to, saying earlier in the week that they are a go for the 30th of May fight night headlined by Tyron Woodley and Gilbert Burns. But the Nevada State Athletic Commission has only yesterday decided that they're going to have a meeting to discuss opening the state to combat events this coming Wednesday. That leaves only 3 days to move the event to neighboring Arizona, a state that declared that would open for no crowd events this week, if the vote goes the other way. But it must be a huge advantage for the UFC to get back to Nevada, where they have the Apex Center. They had all the staging, lighting, and camera gear ready to go before the pandemic was even a thought. The UFC has already filed with the Nevada State Athletic Commission for the 30th of May and the 6th of June, that being that fight night we mentioned earlier and UFC 250 respectively. Only time will tell if these events are going to take place in Nevada, but if anyone can do it based on the last month of sport, it's Dana White. That's been everything in MMA this week. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to be a part of those polls. Be sure to head to our Facebook page, link in the description, and while you're there, check out that Anthony Smith interview. I've been Ray from Combat Zone, and we'll see you next time.